The restaurant buzzed with the comfortable noise of lunchtime conversations, clinking glasses, and quiet laughter, but in less than 30 seconds, every cheerful sound seemed to disappear. A powerful CEO, dressed in an elegant navy suit, found herself trapped against a wall by three aggressive men who believed money gave them the right to intimidate anyone they pleased. Dozens of customers lowered their eyes, pretending not to notice. Waiters froze in fear. Phones came out, but no one moved to help. Then, from table 6, a tired single father quietly stood up. He wasn't wealthy. He wasn't famous. He wasn't even supposed to be there. Yet the next few minutes would change every life inside that restaurant forever. Before we begin this unforgettable story, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to SingleDadJourney if you believe kindness, courage, and second chances can still change the world. Your support helps these inspiring stories reach more hearts every single day. Elias Rowan had learned long ago that life rarely rewarded good people immediately. At 38, he worked long shifts delivering office supplies across the city while raising his 8-year-old daughter, Hazel, completely alone. Every morning began before sunrise. He packed school lunches, braided Hazel's curly hair after watching countless online tutorials, cleaned their tiny apartment, and rushed to work before most people had even poured their first cup of coffee. His paycheck barely covered rent, groceries, and school expenses, but he never complained because every sacrifice seemed worthwhile whenever Hazel smiled. She believed her father could fix anything, and that innocent faith became the fuel that carried him through every exhausting day. That Tuesday afternoon, Elias stopped at a modest downtown restaurant to eat the first proper meal he had enjoyed in nearly a week. It wasn't a luxury. He simply ordered the daily lunch special because it was affordable and filling. Sitting quietly at table 6 near the large windows, he reviewed delivery schedules while thinking about picking Hazel up after school. Around him sat business executives, lawyers, and wealthy professionals discussing contracts worth more than he would earn in several years. Elias didn't feel out of place anymore. Life had taught him that dignity never depended on the size of a paycheck. Across the dining room sat Maren Whitlock, the respected CEO of one of the city's fastest-growing renewable energy companies. She had built her business from nothing after growing up in foster care, refusing to let hardship define her future. Her company employed hundreds of workers and supported dozens of local charities, though she rarely spoke publicly about her generosity. That afternoon she was meeting investors who claimed they wanted partnership, but beneath their polished smiles hid greed and manipulation. When Maren refused to approve an unethical deal that would cost hundreds of employees their jobs, the meeting exploded into anger. Within moments, the investors cornered her near the restaurant entrance. Their raised voices echoed across the room. They mocked her leadership, questioned her judgment, and stepped closer with every threatening word. Fear spread among the customers. No one wanted trouble. Everyone hoped someone else would intervene. The restaurant manager nervously glanced toward the exit instead of the confrontation. Silence became the loudest sound in the room. Elias watched everything from table 6. He remembered another moment years earlier when strangers had watched silently as his late wife collapsed from a sudden medical emergency in a crowded train station. People had stared instead of helping until it was too late. That memory never stopped haunting him. He quietly placed his napkin beside his unfinished meal, stood up, and walked across the restaurant with calm determination. He positioned himself between Maren and the men, not with anger but with quiet confidence earned through years of overcoming life's disappointments. His steady presence surprised everyone. The investors expected fear, excuses, or hesitation. Instead, they found themselves facing an ordinary father whose eyes carried the unshakable strength of someone who had survived far worse than intimidation. His calm words reminded them that respect was not optional and that the authorities were already being contacted. Something about his composure broke their confidence. Within minutes, embarrassed by the attention gathering around them, they stormed out of the restaurant. Only after the danger passed did the room finally breathe again. customers who had remained silent began applauding. Some looked ashamed that the bravest person in the building had been the man with the cheapest lunch. Maren thanked Elias sincerely, but what touched her most was discovering he expected nothing in return. He simply returned to table 6, paid his bill, and prepared to continue delivering packages because his daughter would soon be waiting at school. Curiosity stayed with Maren long after that afternoon. She quietly asked her assistant to learn more about the humble stranger. Instead of discovering a hidden millionaire or retired soldier, she found a man who volunteered at weekend food drives despite barely having enough for himself. Teachers described Elias as the father who never missed a parent meeting. Neighbors spoke about how he fixed broken bicycles for neighborhood children without charging a single dollar. His entire life reflected the same courage he had shown inside the restaurant. A week later, Maren invited Elias to company headquarters. Nervous and wearing his only pressed shirt, he believed she simply wanted to thank him again. Instead, she offered him a position leading community outreach programs because she believed character mattered more than an impressive resume. Elias admitted he lacked corporate experience, but Maren smiled and explained that leadership begins with integrity, not titles. The transition wasn't easy. Elias doubted himself every single day. He studied late into the night after putting Hazel to bed, learning business communication, nonprofit partnerships, and project management. He made mistakes, asked endless questions, and sometimes wondered whether he truly belonged among experienced executives. Yet every challenge reminded him why he had accepted the opportunity, to build a future where his daughter would never have to watch him choose between paying rent and buying groceries. Months passed, and Elias transformed the company's community programs into something extraordinary. Employee volunteer numbers doubled. Scholarships expanded. Local shelters received greater support. More importantly, people throughout the company began treating one another with greater compassion because they had witnessed how one ordinary act of courage had reshaped countless lives. Hazel noticed the greatest change of all. Her father smiled more often. He attended every school event without worrying about losing hourly wages. Their apartment slowly filled with laughter instead of financial anxiety. One evening she proudly told her class that heroes don't always wear uniforms or expensive suits. Sometimes they simply stand up when everyone else sits down. If this story has touched your heart so far, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with someone who still believes in goodness, and subscribe to SingleDadJourney. Every interaction helps these inspiring stories remind the world that courage still exists in ordinary people. Special request, comment below with, "One brave step can change a life." We'd love to know where you're watching from and whether you believe kindness still has the power to change the world. Years later, people inside that restaurant rarely remembered the wealthy investors or the business deal that failed. Instead, they remembered the quiet single father from table 6 who refused to look away when everyone else did. His courage proved that true strength is not measured by wealth, influence, or status. It is measured by the willingness to stand beside another human being when they need someone most. And because one father chose compassion over comfort on an ordinary afternoon, a frightened CEO found hope, a struggling family found a brighter future, and countless others discovered that even the smallest act of bravery can echo through generations.